For the few people in the room who may not know Dr. Michael Greger, he's the founding member and fellow of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. He's a physician and internationally recognized speaker on nutrition. His science-based nonprofit, nutritionfacts.org, offers a free online portal hosting more than 2,000 videos and articles on a variety of health topics. Really encourage you to check it out. When I was first getting into this, I watched so many of his videos. Dr. Greger is a sought-after lecturer and has presented at the Conference on World Affairs and the World Bank. His books, including How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, and his latest, How Not to Age, are household names to anyone interested in a healthier diet and lifestyle. And today his presentation will focus on his latest book, How Not to Age. Before I ask Dr. Greger to take the podium, I just want to take a minute to express our gratitude. On behalf of all of us at Peaceful Planet, we want to thank you for being here today and for your message of clarity and compassion. All that you're doing. Your actions not only improve the health of humans, but improve the lives of all sentient beings on this planet.
Yes.
The tagline for our small nonprofit, Peaceful Planet, is to foster peace, health, and wellness. I can't think of a more appropriate individual to wrap up the 6th annual Peaceful Planet Peace and Wellness Retreat than you. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was so sweet. Aww. You never get that at like medical conferences and stuff. All right. Why do some people live to be 100 and others not? Well, it's not just a matter of picking better parents. Studies following identical twins suggest only about 25% of the difference in lifespan between individuals is due to genetics. What can we do over the majority over which we have some control? Well, the media loves stories of hard-living centenarians who attribute their longevity to some combination of lard, vodka, and favorite brand of cigarette. But how do the oldest and healthiest really eat and live? Well, that's what we have the blue zones for. These areas of exceptional longevity around the world where they may have up to 10 times the rate of those reaching triple digits. Well, what lessons can we learn? The Blue Zones organization distilled findings from over 150 dietary surveys from the world's longest living people to create a set of 10 food guidelines. The foundation of the Blue Zones food guidelines is to make your diet at least 95% plant-based, avoiding highly processed foods, emphasizing beans as the healthiest source of protein, water is the best beverage, and nuts as the healthiest snack. That's the foundation. The final 5 guidelines are go easy on fish, eliminate eggs, slash sugar, reduce dairy, and retreat from meat. There are a number of Blue Zone lifestyle characteristics, avoiding smoking, daily exercise, but plant-based nutrition appears to be the principal component. No surprise, since the #1 cause of death in these United States is the American diet. Unsafe sex is bad. Physical inactivity, bad. Alcohol and drugs, especially tobacco, bad. But cigarettes only kill about 500,000 Americans every year, whereas our diet kills many more. We are what we eat, which is good news because it means we have the power Changing from a typical diet to a better diet starting at age 20, it'd be expected to increase the lifespan of women by 11 years, men by 13 years. The largest life expectancy gains would be made by eating more legumes. In other words, more beans, split peas, chickpeas, or lentils. There's one thing we could do. Legumes for longevity. Hummus for health. Then comes whole grains and nuts and eating less meat. Now, for the few of us who aren't 20 anymore, not to worry, starting to eat healthier at age 60 could still mean adding 8 or 9 years to your lifespan, even starting as late as age 80 could add years, and it doesn't take much. The NIH AARP study is the largest forward-looking in-depth study on diet and health in history, based on its 6 million person years of observation, replacing just 3% of daily caloric intake from animal protein to plant protein was associated with a 10% decreased risk of overall mortality. Just swapping 3%. Of all animal protein sources, eggs were found to be the worst. Swapping in 3% of plant protein for egg protein was associated with twice the benefit, more than 20% lower risk of premature death, having scrambled, tofu instead. But does eating healthier actually slow down aging? Adopting a plant-based dietary pattern, especially when rich in healthful plant foods, was associated with substantially lowered pace of aging. All we need now is an interventional trial to prove cause and effect, and here we go. Randomize hundreds of individuals to a diet centered around whole plant foods, or to exercise, or to neither. And though sadly the physical activity alone failed to slow the aging process, those in the plant-based dietary intervention group experienced a significant slowing of biological aging. How many people saw the new Netflix documentary about the identical twins? Right, it just came out in January, highly recommended. They were identical twins randomized to either a healthy omnivorous diet versus a plant-based diet. Not only did the plant-based diet slow telomere loss, that's what they reported in the documentary, but after the documentary came out, the papers continued to be published based on this data, and they actually measured the rate of aging, and within 8 weeks of eating more plants, there was significant slowing of biological aging using 3 different epigenetic measures, including specifically a slowing in inflammatory, heart, hormone, liver, and metabolic aging clocks, aligning with the anti-aging effects of plant-based diets within 8 weeks. In terms of lifespan, eating a burger may cut one's life as short as smoking 2 cigarettes. So if it would not even occur to you to light up before and after lunch, maybe we should choose the bean burrito instead. Of course, it's not just about adding years to your life, but life to your years. An unhealthy aging index was devised to measure functional impairments, vitality, mental health, not just physical health, and substituting even just 1% of calories from plant protein for animal protein appeared to lead to significantly less deficit accumulation, and substituting 5% may reduce our risk of dying from the greatest deficit of all, dementia. This may help explain why those who don't eat any meat at all up to 3 times less likely to become demented later in life. But again, it's not all or nothing. In fact, the worst thing about humanity's diet is neither animal nor vegetable, but mineral, sodium. I'm happy to talk about it in the Q&A, but basically we should switch from sodium chloride, regular salt, to a potassium salt, potassium chloride, like this. What about fish? Unfortunately, our oceans have essentially become humanity's sewer. Everything eventually flows into the sea. So the consumption of contaminated seafood has become the main route of human exposure to industrial pollutants. Yes, a variety of different foods are affected, but the number one source of DDT? Fish. Number one source of PCBs? Fish. Salmon is the worst when it comes to PCBs, followed by canned tuna. Salmon also has the highest levels of dioxin-like compounds. So, on the one hand, fish has long been viewed as this healthy dietary component because these long-chain omega-3s. But on the other hand, we've so polluted our world that we're now seeing heavy metals, pesticides, flame retardants in fish, forever chemicals, which may explain why, despite their omega-3s, there's been this failure to consistently observe beneficial effects of fish consumption. So if we had a time machine, go back before the Industrial Revolution, that might be one thing, but now we have studies like this, where mice fed farmed salmon fillets with typical levels of persistent organic pollutants were found to develop insulin resistance, glucose intolerance, abdominal obesity, fatty liver, chronic low-grade inflammation. So even just background levels of pollutants that might be presumed to be safe could completely counteract any potential benefits of the omega-3s, in particular leading to serious metabolic issues. For mercury, it's more about brain function. Hundreds of thousands of babies born with brain damage every year in the United States because their mothers ate mercury-contaminated fish during pregnancy, with the resulting loss of intelligence costing our nation billions of dollars of lost productivity every year. In the aging literature, there are cases like this. A man with years of progressive memory loss, tentatively diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. His friends and families assumed he was nearing the end of his life. But a detailed history revealed that he had consumed swordfish once or twice a week. When the fish was removed from his diet, his mercury level fell and his memory bounced back. No more dementia. Right? So it seemed he didn't have Alzheimer's after all, but rather mercury poisoning from a handful of monthly meals of contaminated fish. You can see the same remarkable reversals with hair loss. Here's a common story. Perimenopausal woman seeks help for hair loss. Blood tests indicate elevated mercury levels. No surprise, she had a diet high in tuna. But within 2 months of stopping fish, her hair started to grow back and eventually regrew completely. So, doctors should consider screening for mercury toxicity when they see hair loss, because look, there's something we can do about it. Instructing patients to reduce fish intake could offer relief of symptoms and uncover dietary habits that may be a source of heavy metal-induced hair loss. Though admittedly, sometimes heavy metal can lead to too much hair. Happy to cover other foods and beverages in the Q&A, like what about red wine or green tea or whatever, but let's move on to my preservation section. How can we preserve our bones, bowels, bladder, and circulation, our hair, hearing, and hormone balance, immune function, joint health, our mind and our muscles, sex life and skin, teeth, vision, and finally, our dignity in death? For example, did you know that 85% of age-related bone fracture risk has nothing to do with bone mineral density? That's just been drilled into our heads by Big Pharma and a billion-dollar bone density screening industry. Fractures are primarily due to falling, not osteoporosis. So it's the age-related muscle loss and impaired balance that may be breaking most of our bones, which is good news because it means we can do something about it. 7 randomized controlled trials found that strength and balance trainings can cut fracture rates nearly in half, and that's just during the trial. In the 5 years after this 1-year study ended, those who had previously been randomized to the combined strength and balance group suffered 74% fewer fractures. That's way more effective than osteoporosis drugs like Fosamax that can cause bone fractures. So what are called atypical femoral fractures in as many as 1 in 300 users. Now, we doctors call them atypical because they occur not after a fall or a trauma, but just during routine activities like walking, twisting at the waist, or even just standing still. Thanks to the drug, your femur, your thigh bone, the biggest bone in your body, just snaps in half. Too cruel an irony from a drug that's supposed to protect your bones. This is what it looks like on X-ray. Ouch. This poor person, both femurs snapped at the same time. Oops. After bones, I talk about preserving your bowel function in chapter number 2. Randomized constipated diabetics either cookies containing a tablespoon of ground flax seeds or flax-free placebo cookies for 12 weeks. And not only does the flax improve constipation symptoms, but resulted in an 8-pound weight loss over placebo, 25-point lower blood sugars, an astounding drop in hemoglobin A1C, and 17-point lower LDL cholesterol, all for about 10 cents a day worth of ground flax seeds. Bladder function. The prevalence of overactive bladder syndrome increases with age, reaching 1 in 3 of us. No wonder bladder relaxing drugs are a multi-billion-dollar industry, yet may only reduce bathroom breaks compared to placebo by a half a pee a day. But a 1/4 teaspoon of dried cranberry powder works nearly 4 times better. 2 fewer daily trips to the bathroom over placebo, and that's without any of the drug side effects, such as problems with dry mouth, constipation, sedation, retention, cognition, vision, leading almost 2/3 of people to stop taking these drugs, whereas cranberries are just tangy. Urinary incontinence is a common problem among women, in particular, thanks to childbirth. Systemic menopausal hormone therapy can actually make it worse, though local vaginal estrogen can help. But what works 5 times better than estrogen cream, though? Kegel exercises, pelvic floor exercises, as I detail in the section. If 1,000 postmenopausal women take the standard hormone regimen for 10 years, you'd not only expect 876 extra cases of urinary incontinence that they wouldn't have had otherwise, but 9 more cases of invasive breast cancer. 8 more cases of heart disease, probably 22 more cases of dementia, 21 more cases of gallbladder disease, 9 more strokes, and 21 more blood clots, though not a single partridge nor pear tree. However, hormone therapy is highly effective at reducing hot flash symptoms. Is there any way to keep cool without the clots and cancer? In the US, menopausal hot flashes are considered inevitable, but there isn't even a word for hot flash in the Japanese language. This may be due to their greater consumption of soy foods, but you don't really know until you put it to the test. Harvard funded a randomized crossover trial of a half cup of unsalted soy nuts a day and achieved, compared to the placebo control group, a 40 to 45% reduction in hot flashes within 2 weeks. Given that a plant-based diet may also be helpful for managing menopausal symptoms, researchers decided to combine the two, a plant-based diet and whole soybeans. In fact, 2 randomized control trials found that plant-based nutrition with a daily half a cup of soybeans, like straight out of a can, can reduce the number of serious hot flashes by 84 to 88%. Lots of other things can help. Whole fennel seeds powdered into capsules to pit them against placebo in a double-blind trial. Improve menopausal symptoms at a dose of just a teaspoon a day. Fenugreek may also help at a dose of a teaspoon and a half, though not as much as hormones, but without the side effects. Though fenugreek can make your pee smell like maple syrup. Sounds like a bonus! The nice thing about studying spices is that entire servings can be stuffed into pills, so you can do placebo-controlled trials. A 1/4 teaspoon of black cumin powder a day led to significant improvements in memory and other tests of cognition within 9 weeks compared to placebo. Black sesame seeds, less than a teaspoon a day of ground black sesame seeds, stuffed into capsules against placebos, drove down systolic blood pressures by 8 points within a month. If sustained, that alone could reduce your risk of a stroke by about 1/4 and is delicious. What else can we powder? Strawberries. Osteoarthritis patients were randomized to 2 ounces a day of freeze-dried strawberry powder versus a fake strawberry flavored and colored placebo powder. And compared to placebo, the real strawberry significantly reduced constant pain, intermittent pain, total joint pain, and improved disability and overall quality of life. The reason we care is that osteoarthritis is the leading cause of physical disability among older men and women, yet how do we treat it? Acetaminophen, Tylenol, is considered the first-line painkiller, but guess what? It doesn't work much better than a sugar pill. But at least it's not going to make matters worse like other things we doctors have dreamed up, like steroid injections, which actively worsen joint deterioration and don't even offer better pain relief than placebos. Or arthroscopic surgery, which may end up tripling our risk of having to get a total knee replacement. I mean, so look, even if this strawberry study is like some total fluke, what's the worst that can happen? Tastier smoothies? And less than a quarter of a teaspoon of ground ginger a day could beat out placebo for joint pain. Researchers conclude ginger should be recommended as a safe drug for these patients. But by drug, they're just talking about a few pinches of the ground ginger you can buy at any store. There was even a study on topical ginger, at least when applied to the scrotum. Paper-thin slices of ginger applied over the inflamed testicles, and the researchers were on the ball. Healing nearly 3 times faster than placebo, than the control group. All right. So far, I've touched on preserving your bones, bowels, bladder, hair, hormones, and joints, but preserving your mind is the largest chapter of the book, as dementia is one of our most pressing public health problems and most feared condition of later life. You know, there's this common misconception that we have no control over whether or not we develop dementia, but the good news is that although Alzheimer's may be incurable, at least it is preventable. There's an emerging consensus that what's good for our hearts is also good for our heads, because clogging of the arteries inside the brain with atherosclerosis is thought to play a role in the development of Alzheimer's dementia. This is what our cerebral arteries should look like: open, clean, allowing blood to flow throughout our brain. This is what atherosclerosis in our head looks like. Clogged with cholesterol, closing off blood flow, clamping down on our arteries. What kind of brain arteries do you want in your head? Too much cholesterol in our blood is unanimously recognized as a risk factor for the development of Alzheimer's disease. Those with a total cholesterol of 225 or more, which is not that uncommon, may have nearly 25 times the odds of ending up with amyloid plaques in their brains 10 to 15 years later. Cholesterol explains how the Alzheimer's gene ApoE ravages the brain. After all, what is ApoE? What is the Alzheimer's gene? It codes for the primary cholesterol carrier inside the brain. This may help explain the so-called Nigerian paradox, where they have among the highest rates of the Alzheimer's gene, but among the lowest rates of Alzheimer's disease. How is that possible? Genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Paradox may be explained by their low cholesterol levels thanks to a diet low in animal fat. Human beings may have evolved to maintain an LDL cholesterol of around 25, but the average in the Western world is like up at 120. No wonder heart disease is the leading cause of death in high-income countries, and guess what's killer number 2? Dementia. This helps explain why the so-called Alzheimer's gene is the single most important gene when it comes to longevity too, which is good news, because even if we've been dealt some bad genetic cards, we still may be able to reshuffle the deck with diet. So, in terms of dietary guidelines for the prevention of Alzheimer's, we should center our diets around vegetables legumes, fruits, and whole grains. In other words, the dietary pillar of lifestyle medicine, whole food, plant-based nutrition. Or if that's too complicated for you, plants, plants, and more plants. Any plants in particular? Well, note that the Loma Linda Alzheimer's Prevention Program singles out berries and greens. The main reason greens make it into my anti-aging 8, though, is because the nitrates in a serving or two of cooked greens can slow our metabolic rate. For the same reason, a little shot of beet juice can enable free divers to hold their breath longer. It improves the efficiency of our mitochondria, little power plants within our cells, allowing us to effectively extract more energy from each breath. And the candle that burns half as bright burns twice as long. Now, normally you only see this kind of metabolic slowing with severe calorie restriction, but instead of walking around starving all the time, you can just eat a big salad. What else can greens do? The Harvard Nurses Health study, the consumption of leafy greens appeared to protect against the development of frailty. And when put to the test in a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, the equivalent of 2/3 of a cup of spinach led to a significant boost in muscle mass, muscle strength, and muscle quality in older men and women. A single cup of greens worth of the vegetable nitrate significantly boosted maximum power and velocity in the quads so much it was functionally equivalent to acutely reversing the effects of several decades of aging. A single cup of cooked greens. Popeye was right. About the spinach, not so much the pipe smoking. Anything else to maintain muscle mass other than greens and machines? How about cocoa beans? Older men and women randomized to a single tablespoon of regular cocoa powder a day experienced a significant improvement in muscle mass, muscle strength, and all 4 tests of physical performance. What else can cocoa do? Increase the circulation within our skin 70% within 2 hours after less than a tablespoon. Do that every day, and within 3 months, you see significantly improved skin thickness, density, hydration. Keep it up for 6 months, and you see an improvement in wrinkles. All by just making your life a little more chocolatey by adding some natural cocoa powder to your daily diet. I put it in my oatmeal, some canned water-packed tart cherries for a morning time chocolate-covered cherry sensation. What else can we do for our skin? Well, there's certainly other antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, glycotoxin-free foods. So when patients inquire about a diet that might contribute to younger-looking skin, evidence supports the recommendation to follow a whole food, plant-based diet. But the most important thing to prevent skin aging is avoid the sun. Exposure to sunlight may account for up to 90% of visible skin aging. Check out this trucker who spent years getting more sun on the left side of his face through the driver's side window. So, the gold standard is considered to be the use of sunscreen in the daytime and so-called retinoids at night. They're talking about a prescription-only form of topical vitamin A known as all-trans-retinoic acid, or tretinoin, sold as Retin A, that has been widely proven to improve skin appearance. The only problem is that it may kill you. Topical tretinoin therapy and all-cause mortality, a randomized controlled trial, had to be stopped early because significantly more people were dying in the retinoic acid group compared to the placebo cream group. So what can we use? Topical niacinamide, also known as nicotinamide. It's been described as one of the best studied anti-aging skin cream ingredient. Not that that's saying very much, but it has been shown to reduce yellowing, wrinkling, blotchiness, and dark spots in aging facial skin. For example, significantly reducing crow's feet wrinkles around the eyes. This was a split face study in which 64% of the niacinamide side eye wrinkles experienced moderate or marked improvement compared to 0% on the placebo side eyes. Topical vitamin C, all for similar improvements over placebo in wrinkles, sallowness, skin tone. Unfortunately, vitamin C is unstable in creams, turning an unsightly brown when it oxidizes. So instead, the skincare industry uses these vitamin C esters or derivatives, and there's no evidence they have comparable effects. But the good news is that you can make your own. The 10% solution used in the study retails for a ridiculous $127 an ounce, but you can make a DIY solution more than 2,000 times cheaper by simply buying ascorbic acid in bulk and mixing 3 grams and 30 grams of water at a cost of about a nickel per ounce. Drip a few drops in the palm of your hand, apply to your face, neck, and upper chest daily. Just don't get it into your eyes. And look, you can do the same thing with niacinamide, which is even more ridiculously priced, but you can buy it in bulk as well at a 5,000% discount. I could go on and on. The book certainly does, but let me close out because I'm going to have lots of time for Q&A by going back to the basics. From the anti-aging journal Rejuvenation Research, finally, a regimen to extend human life expectancy. Was it some exotic new stem cell treatment or gene therapy? No. It was a reference to this Harvard analysis. More than 100,000 men and women were followed for decades, and just a few basic lifestyle behaviors appeared to translate into 12 to 14 years of extra lifespan for the average 50-year-old. Even age 50, maybe able to add an extra dozen years to your life. Even at age 70, there'll still be about 10 years of life left on the table. And if you clean up your life before age 50, nearly 18 years may be up for grabs based on simple, common sense behaviors, turning back the clock not with a drug or a DeLorean, but simply by eating and living more healthfully. What do I mean? Well, a midlife shift to the ages of 45 and 64 to even the barest amendments. We're talking 5 daily servings of fruits and vegetables a day, not smoking, maintaining a healthy weight, and exercise, walking even 20 minutes a day can result in a substantial reduction in mortality, even in the immediate future. We're talking about a 40% lower risk of dying over the subsequent 4 years. The researchers conclude that making the necessary changes to adhere to a healthy lifestyle is extremely worthwhile. Middle age is certainly not too late to act. We hold the power. Okay, so I was only able to touch on about 50 studies. How Not to Age ended up with over 13,000 citations. So I was only able to cover about 0.5% of the book. For the other 99.5%, check out How Not to Age at your local public library. And all the proceeds I receive from the sales of all my books are donated directly to charity. I just want everyone to enjoy. I just want you and your loved ones to enjoy the longest, healthiest life. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. All right, questions. Who's got questions?
Is there any difference between the root turmeric and the dry powder that we buy in the capsule?
One's dried, one's fresh. So I recommend a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric a day. That's talking about the dried turmeric. If you're going to get the fresh root, which you used to not be able to find, but now you can find it, like Whole Foods has it. It's a 1/4 inch. They come in like little fingers, look like ginger. So a 1/4 inch of fresh is equivalent to, is it a 1/2 inch? No, I think it's a 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch is equal to a 1/4 teaspoon of dried. So you can do it either way. You can take the fresh and put it into a smoothie or whatever, or if you like things tasting like curry, you can sprinkle it on stuff.
For Parkinson's disease, if someone just doesn't have a lot of control over, for Parkinson's disease, if someone doesn't have a lot of time or control over what food is being consumed, what is like the must-have that you would recommend for someone who has that in terms of, I know I keep hearing about berries, so is that the must-have or what is it?
Fava beans. Yeah. And for anyone who's like, fava beans? Where did that come from? You obviously haven't seen my video on Parkinson's disease and fava beans. Check it out at nutritionfacts.org. Oh. Hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay. Oh, yeah.
So, can you describe a little bit more about how we should use the vegetables and the fruits? Because most of those naked fruits have a lot of pesticides.
Naked fruits. It's getting hot in here.
I'm trying to use your terminology a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So the question was, well, if we're eating all these naked fruits and vegetables, what about the pesticides on them, right? So in How Not to Die, I talk about a modeling study that suggested that if half of Americans ate a single more serving of fruits or vegetables, we would prevent every year 20,000 cases of cancer. That's how powerful produce is. But because they were talking about conventional fruits and vegetables, pesticide-laden fruits and vegetables, the additional pesticide burden on the American public would cause 10 cases of cancer. So overall, we would just prevent 19,990 cases of cancer. So that gives you a sense of the tremendous benefit versus the tiny bump in risk. Now you say, wait a second, why not accept all benefits and no risk by choosing organic? Great, but we should never let concern over pesticides prevent us from stuffing our face with as many fruits and vegetables as possible.
If we follow everything that all of your advice, eat a 100% whole food plant-based diet, what are the likely causes of death?
You can still get hit by a bus. This is not like, you still got to put smoke alarms, you got to wear bike helmets, seat belts, like it's a whole thing. You can't just be like, I ate kale today, I'm just going to waltz into traffic. Seriously. There's all sorts of things that can get you. Killer bees. I mean, I don't know. And if you're hanging around with like, I don't know, lots of sweet fruit, maybe more killer bees, who knows? It's dangerous.
I asked you this question back in Marshall, Texas several years ago. Your answer was infection. Is that
Oh yeah, we can all die of infection. I don't know, there was this pandemic thing, I don't know if you even heard about it. But like lots of people got sick. Lots of people. Although it's interesting, those eating plant-based diets had significantly less chance of getting the disease in the first place, dying from the disease, and suffering a severe course like hospitalization, even after controlling for comorbidities. Like where you say, well, obviously people plant-based are less likely to be obese and diabetic and heart disease, etc. No, even after controlling for all that, still those eating plant-based significantly lower risk. But just because you have a lower risk doesn't mean, people eating strictly plant-based diets have 85% lower risk of getting type 2 diabetes. Okay, but type 2 diabetes is an absolute pandemic, right? So a 15% chance, there's still lots of vegan diabetics out there, right? So yes, you can decrease, it's like when you put on a seatbelt, it's not a guarantee you're not going to die in a car crash, but we have good data to suggest that people who wear seatbelts are significantly less likely to die in a car crash than people who don't, so it's a good idea to do it, right? So no guarantees in life, but all we can do is look at all the evidence and try to reduce our risk as much as possible.
Hi, yes. We are caregivers of my mom, who's 88, who's eaten a traditional SAD diet all her life. She's slightly demented and she has some health problems, but we have put her on a fully whole food plant-based diet for the past 3 months.
I love it.
What can we expect to see any differences within her health?
Are we going to see, well, I mean, in terms of health, absolutely, but I think the really interesting question, we're going to see an improvement in cognition. And Dr. Dean Ornish just finished up a trial on reversing early-stage Alzheimer's with a plant-based diet. The same plant-based diet and lifestyle program that reversed heart disease, reversed early-stage prostate cancer. He said, let's go against Alzheimer's. The study is done, and it will be published, well, he said this month. I'll believe it when I see it. And so, I mean, it'll send shock waves through the medical community. I've been privy to some early data, which I cannot release, but let me just say, eat your plants.
Could you speak to absorption of plant-based protein as well as the need for more protein as you age?
Oh, so one could argue that instead of 0.8 grams per healthy gram of body weight, which is the recommendation for protein, it's about 45 grams a day for the average height woman, 55 a day for the average height man. You could argue because of the absorptions is a little less efficient, you could argue for 0.9. After age 65, you could argue for 1 gram per healthy kilogram body weight, but that's still way lower than most people eat. So it's a matter of restricting your protein down to recommended levels for longevity, and I have a whole chapter on that in the new book.
Question. When are the medical schools going to figure out that nutrition is relevant?
If you didn't hear the question, when are medical schools going to figure out? Well, one of big pharma plays a big role in medical education and practice. And so you can ask your doctor when the last time they were taken out to dinner by Big Broccoli. It's probably been a while. And so, it's just, there's lack of reimbursement. There's also, we don't, there aren't nutrition questions on the licensing exams. And so, if a school wants to look good and have really high pass rates, they teach the curriculum to the test. And if the test isn't asking about nutrition, they're not going to teach about nutrition. So all sorts of kind of structural issues like that. Dr. Michael Clapper is going around the country speaking at medical schools now, actually doing kind of a lot of Zoom stuff. He just moved to near Vancouver in Canada. I don't know if he's going to be doing as much traveling as he did before, but he's been speaking talking about his 50 years in clinical practice and about the amazing things plant-based diets can do. And it's so sad that these medical students may graduate without this powerful tool in the medical toolbox, particularly because according to the Global Burden of Disease Study, the largest study of risk factors for disease in human history, the number one cause of death in these United States, American diet. Number one cause of disability, American diet. So if doctors actually cared about saving lives, then it's like, it would just be, that's like all you teach. It would just be nutrition. You go to your doctor and all they'd ask about, what did you eat today? What did you eat yesterday? But unfortunately, that's just not the case. And there's lots of factors that kind of go into that. But the good news is things are changing. The average doctor now, average medical student gets 4 hours of nutrition training out of thousands of hours of preclinical instruction. We're working on it. There's the American College of Lifestyle Medicine starting to open like student chapters in all the medical schools to hopefully bring in speakers and educate their colleagues. So there's movement happening, but it's just really, really slow, just because the system is really not set up to deal with prevention, to deal with kind of non-pharmacological, non-surgical approaches towards treating the underlying cause of chronic disease. These lifestyle diseases, which really about 80% of what comes into a primary care doctor's office, are these chronic lifestyle diseases. And yes, using traditional medicine, we can slow down the rate at which our diabetics go blind and lose their kidney function, go on dialysis, and lose their lower limbs, etc. But if we actually want to reverse the diabetes, get rid of the diabetes, then you actually have to, change, the diet and lifestyle that caused the diabetes in the first place. And that's why lifestyle medicine is so critically important.
Here, sorry, I have, oh, sorry. Here.
Wherever. Okay.
Okay, I have two questions, if I may, but one is, what are your thoughts on using potassium sulfate as a salt substitute if the person has had any chronic kidney stone issues?
Oh, interesting. Kidney stone issues.
Is,
Okay.
do you have any thoughts on specific foods
for somebody that is on the onset of arthritis?
So I've never heard of potassium sulfate as a salt substitute, but potassium chloride should be fine for some potassium chloride. Right, potassium chloride as a salt substitute for people at risk for kidney stones. That's fine. The only concern with potassium chloride is if you have kidney failure. If your kidneys can't get rid of excess potassium, that can be a problem. But if your kidneys are working fine, then we have these interventional trials where we randomize people to even half potassium salt, which you wouldn't even be able to taste the difference, and made them 14 years younger when it came to the risk of premature death. I mean, absolutely remarkable. So it's like if there's one simple little tweak to dramatically increase your lifespan, it'd be to switch over to from sodium salt to potassium salt.
Hi.
I got a light.
Over here.
Ah!
So I wanted to touch on the comment someone made earlier about when our medical school is gonna, catch on to this. Well, I promise all the physicians out there really are trying. I actually skipped out on a medical conference to come to this one.
Oh, nice.
Three-day conference. I skipped out on the last day. I was like, no, this is way more valuable to my practice. So
nice.
I think one of the biggest things we need to do is get the insurance companies to actually support educating patients, because it saves them money. It actually saves them money by teaching them how to eat right. But unfortunately, getting a good dietitian, getting a nutritionist, getting those resources, getting that paid for is it's impossible, honestly. I mean, we have to dig and look for people who are willing to volunteer. So that was just a comment I wanted to make. But my question, between the books that you have, the How Not to Age and How Not to Die book, I guess, if I were to read one as a good resource of knowledge to give to my patients, like what would you say is a good start to kind of have that base of understanding?
I think probably How Not to Die. I've got, it's just 15 chapters, each of the 15 leading causes of death, talking about the role diet, maybe playing preventing, arresting, reversing each of them. And that's the first half of the book. Second half of the book, centers my recommendations around the daily dozen checklist of all the healthiest of healthy foods. I encourage people to fit into their diet, to just kind of inspire people to, maybe crowd out some of the less healthy options. And I'm coming out with a 10th anniversary edition. It's that old. It came out in 2015. Wow. So in 2025, there's going to be a 10th anniversary edition. I actually just started working on it on the plane last week. Yeah, I'm excited. And so, I mean, until then, the 2015 will work, but there'll be a new one out.
Do you have a recommendation for someone with gallstones that had a couple of attacks?
Yeah. So probably the quickest thing is just putting gallstones or gallbladder into nutritionfacts.org. All the videos that come up. So it talks about low-fat diet, all the things that can mediate kind of the squeezing the gallbladder, which can cause attacks if you have stones blocking the exit, and things you can do to prevent the accumulation of stones in the first place.
I have a two-part question.
Do you now?
My first question has this always been how it should have been since the beginning, or has it been through time that our foods have changed and caused these different issues because of the different chemicals and different things that are being given to our animals? The other question is, does it make a difference if we are still eating meat, if we do like local meats and farms and ranches versus going into the store, or is it still going to cause the inflammation regardless, even if you're monitoring the feed that you're giving to these animals? But my main question is,
Right.
always been
Right. So for the first 90% of our evolution, when we first broke off with our last great ape ancestor in the Miocene era 20 million years ago, up until the Paleolithic about 2 million years ago. So for the first 18 out of 20 million years of our existence as hominoids, we've eaten what the rest of our great ape cousins eat, almost exclusively plant-based diets, until we learned how to make tools, we started hunting, And so our entire physiology is really, it was built on a plant-based diet. So we, for example, junked the DNA to make vitamin C. Most animals actually make their own vitamin C. We don't need to because we lived off of fruits and leaves all day, and so our body's like, why am I making this? Right? So it's like us and fruit bats and like guinea pigs. Everybody else makes their vitamin C. We look at Paleolithic fossilized feces, these like paleo pool, and estimated we're getting over 100 grams of fiber a day. So that's what our system was built on. And the fact that now we're eating these processed fiber-free foods and these, diets high in, saturated fat, etc. The original reason why we thought cholesterol caused heart disease back in 1908, where this Russian physiologist showed that you can feed, cholesterol to a bunny rabbit and it gets atherosclerosis, but you feed it to a dog, and the dog just wags their tail. You cannot cause atherosclerosis in an omnivore, in a carnivore. You can only do it in herbivores. That's another good reason to suggest why we're meant to eat plant-based. But all meat is not the same. So the least harmful would be kind of wild-caught game. There's a study I did a video about in Australia where they're talking about kangaroo meat, which is kind of like the venison of Australia, found that kangaroo meat caused a significantly less inflammation than the store-bought meat within hours of consumption. Now, so that's, certainly a step in the right direction, but I mean, why eat a food that causes any inflammation at all, right? If instead you ate some pinto beans or something, it actually have an anti-inflammatory effect, right? But if you were going to eat, meat, something like elk or moose, is extremely lean, like 4% calories from fat, and so that would be the way to go.
I have a question.
Yes.
About Huntington's disease.
Yes.
Have you read any research about how to delay the onset of symptoms?
We got nothing.
Hello. Mine is more of a comment than a testimony. I read your book in 2015, How Not to Die. In 2014, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma, and 10 years later, I'm still here. So my disease was reversed. So for any of you who still have that question mark, believe that this is the way to do it. Anything can be reversed with the right food. I want to thank you for giving us the facts, for really telling us how to do things with the science behind it. Because there's a lot of information out there, and we can get really overwhelmed, especially when we have been diagnosed with something so significant. We always relate the cancer with death. And now I relate it with hope, with opportunity, and with opportunity to learn and make changes in our lives. So it took me this long to meet you in person, but I want to thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Wonderful.
So Dr. Papa was my doctor, and I saw him here last year in his speech. And so between you, Dr. Greger, Dr.
Clapper.
Bernard, Dr. Goldhammer, you guys are doing a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Look, you did all the work, right? People come up to me and they're like, oh my God, you saved my life. I didn't say, no, you saved your life. I just gave you the information, and a lot of people just don't. But just not to be a Debbie Downer, not everything can be reversed like the Huntington's. Yeah. Yes. Oh. Do it.
Two questions.
Okay.
I was told that I shouldn't have banana and berries in my
Okay,
food
right?
because
Who told you that? Crazy. Okay, yeah. Next, yeah.
because the banana.
Right. What's the other one?
Okay. There's a famous doctor that we all know, and I don't call names, and he talks about not eating things like the nightshades and oats.
Oh, right. Gundry. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll do the last one first. That's easy. So yeah, this fellow named, this doctor named Gundry wrote a book called The Plant Paradox, where he argued that we shouldn't be eating really healthy foods like beans and things like that. And so I did a series of videos about that book and his work with cleverly disguised titles such as Dr. Gundry is wrong. So if you want to, you just go through the video and watch. But yeah, speaking of wacky doctors, this banana blueberry thing, what is going on? Yeah, so I did a webinar, God, it was like an hour-long webinar, talking about this new study that came out that found that if you mix, I was geeking out like crazy. It's such a cool study. If you mix bananas, if you put bananas in your smoothie, it basically blocks the absorption of about a third of the berry phytonutrients. This is the reason we add berries. Now, if you really like bananas in your smoothie, you can add a third more berries. And then you're back up to normal. Or you can add sweet potato instead. You can cook some sweet potato and freeze it into chunks and put it in. It has that same kind of, smooth, kind of creamy texture that banana does. That's what I do in my smoothies. And you get bonus points if you use purple sweet potatoes, which have the berry anthocyanins as well. So it's like a double berry dose. You can also, getting a little crazier, you can use freeze-dried banana. You can get freeze-dried, not banana chips, which are dried with like sugar and stuff, but actually freeze-dried, like astronaut ice cream kind of banana. You can get those, a little expensive, but you can throw those in a smoothie. You get that banana flavor without the problem. Because the enzyme that does the bad stuff is inactivated. You can also cook the bananas. You microwave the banana. In the video, I talked about how long you microwave the banana, right? And then you put it in the freezer. And so then you have all the frozen banana you want, but the enzyme's inactivated and doesn't do anything to your berries. And there's all sorts of other ways, but you get the idea. But people have this sense, but people come away from this very detailed, granular. I went through all of this, and they come away, oh my God, bananas are going to kill you. What? That's not what I said. And they have this sense that banana completely blocks. No, it's a third. It's a third less. All right? And so you still get 2/3. Yeah.
And I do want to say thank you. You're such a blessing. Love you. My question is about, traveling can be a little more challenging.
Oh, yeah.
On a cruise ship.
Oh, yeah.
On a recent cruise, I actually got a prescription written up and brought whole food, plant-based, described that and everything.
Okay.
They didn't have a clue.
Okay.
What that was, to have some more compliance with health.
Okay.
And I wanted your suggestions of things to do when we're traveling.
Yeah. Well, there is a vegan cruise, the Holistic Holiday at Sea, which I go on every year, and so the entire dining hall is so that's one way to do it. I've never been on a regular cruise, so I can imagine that'd be difficult. But aren't they like buffets? Can't you just go through and eat vegetable sides and stuff?
Salt.
Oh, they got a lot of garbage,
oil. Yeah, it's not, and in fact, a lot of preservative things. I learned that because they had a team that helped us, that prepared our food, our smoothies and everything.
Wow, that's nice.
It was very compliant, and I'd say, well, couldn't I have the part of palm or something? No, I checked it.
And it's a pack of salt, something. Yeah. It's getting a lot easier to travel these days. I'm doing 100 cities in 6 months right now. Most cities, like there's a Whole Foods. Whole Foods has a big salad bar and hot bar, and you can kind of pick and choose and make whatever food you want. First couple of days, you can bring food with you. There's a lot of light, freeze-dried. If I didn't eat all my snacks already, I could show you some of my snacks. There's these new, my favorite, dried sweet potato. What are they called? Oh, yammies. Oh, that's funny, called yammies. They're like yammies, it's gotta be good. It's one ingredient, it's just not freeze-dried, it's just dried mango. And it's just like dried mango, but it's dried sweet potato, delicious. So there's all sorts of dried fruits and that kind of a trail mix kind of thing, at least, on the airplane or something, so you don't land starving and, eat bad food. There is a company called Leafside that makes freeze-dried foods where you just add hot water, so you get like hot water in the coffee, coffee maker at the hotel, and then you add none. You can have like chili and noodle dishes and things like that. What are some other? Sweet potato. Microwave a sweet potato. Before I go anywhere, I microwave a purple sweet potato, which I ate this morning on the plane. Otherwise, I'd show you my sweet potato. It looks a little weird just sitting there chowing down on sweet potato, but or kale chips. You're like eating dark green leafy vegetables on the road. Like, this is amazing. Nori sheets, that you wrap sushi up. You can just chew on those. Lots of ways to light things you can take on the road.
I'm meaning more. How do we? I had written up describing food plant-based.
Yeah.
And because
they just didn't really know. It's kind of in the name, isn't it?
Well, you'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised. Yeah.
Surprisingly, we're getting rid of that. So I felt like we were trailblazers.
Right. Oh, good. Well, then the next time someone comes on and says they're all food plant-based, maybe they'll actually they'll get a vegetable. Wonderful.
A go-to to where anybody could
like. Is there like a card?
Yeah.
Like,
Kind of, for restaurants, because it does help spread the news, just like vegan.
Right. I don't know of any such resource. Yeah.
Dr. Greger.
Yes.
Your thoughts on this new coating that they're putting on our fruits and vegetables called a peel?
Oh, yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I'm all in favor of anything that makes it more convenient to eat fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables go bad, they rot on the shelf, and that causes a lot of food waste and makes it more expensive. And thankfully, grocery stores just see it as loss leader and sell you produce anyway, but they really are selling you produce, so you come in the store and buy the really profitable stuff like the chips and the soda and blah, blah, blah. But I'm all in favor of any technology that is going to make fruits and vegetables more widely available.
Dr. Greger back here, to your left.
Yes.
I have a very personal question to ask you.
Yes.
Not that one yet. What is your go-to breakfast and favorite way to get protein with your breakfast?
Oh. Yeah, I love it when they're like, you like order or whatever, salad, and they're like, would you like protein with that? And I'm like, looking at this salad, it's got beans in it, I'm like, what? Okay. Breakfast, my kind of go-to breakfast when I'm actually at home. When I'm on the road, it's like Starbucks oatmeal. But when I'm home, I can actually eat oat groats, and I do my kind of chocolate-covered jelly sensation thing where I can water tart cherries with cocoa powder and pumpkin seeds and walnuts and dark chocolate balsamic and groats. Oh, and cranberries, and what else do I put in there? And then I don't know if I have any fresh berries at hand. Oh, flax seeds and ground flax seeds and wheat germ and, the standard complement. And where is the protein in that? The protein's in the oat groats. If you wanted to mash some white beans in there for extra protein, I don't know why you'd want to, but you can go for it. But yeah, again, 0.8 grams per healthy kilogram body weight. It's like one good PB&J, you're a quarter of the way there to your protein needs. Like it's not something anybody has to worry about if they're getting if they're fulfilling their caloric needs with a variety of healthy plant foods.
I have a question. Just based on the personal question, I wanted to know how long have you yourself been plant-based and what motivated you to?
It was July 1990, so 34 years ago with the publication of Dr. Dean Ornish's Lifestyle Heart Trial in The Lancet, the most prestigious medical journal on the planet, showing that our #1 killer of men and women could be reversed with a healthy enough plant-based diet and lifestyle program. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to die. And then I looked around like, nobody? Really? And to this day, hundreds of thousands of Americans continue to die of this preventable, arrestable, reversible condition. Absolutely outrageous. But yeah, that's what did it for me.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
When you mentioned the health benefits of cocoa,
Yes.
do the benefits offset the heavy metals that are in it?
Depends what cocoa you get. So there's been 2 recent surveys, one done by Consumers Union, published in Consumer Reports. Other one is done by Consumer Lab, which is a for-profit kind of consumer, I wouldn't say consumer group, but they do testing. And so if you just do chocolate recreationally, then it doesn't really matter, right? If you're just eating, cocoa once in a while. But if you follow my recommendation, eat a tablespoon a day for all these benefits, then you really should try to choose one of the, kind of lower cadmium cocos. And so the lowest on the list, if I remember, is Target brand generic cocoa. So that's the one I get. But yeah. So I'd choose a low cadmium cocoa.
Next question. When you talked about the salmon studies, was the wild-caught salmon any lower, any different as far as health benefits? Or should we not eat wild-caught as well as not eat farmed? I always eat farmed fat.
Yeah, so wild-caught has less toxin accumulation. Unfortunately, there's such widespread fraud in the seafood industry that a little over a quarter, typically, of things that are labeled wild are actually farmed, and so it's difficult to actually get wild caught, even if you did want wild caught, but it's less contaminated than farmed. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Greger, back here.
Wow, it's like ventriloquism. How'd you do that?
Back here, to your left, back in this corner. Hi, yeah. 2-part question. You talk about the importance of legumes. How do sprouted legumes, like sprouted lentils?
Oh, delicious. The moment I get home, I start sprouting, if I have enough days left. So sprouting lentils, one of my favorite snacks. Sprouting broccoli, oh my God, one of the healthiest foods on the planet. Do it.
Awesome. And then what are your thoughts or opinions on a raw vegan diet?
I encourage people to eat a combination of raw and cooked foods because some nutrients are partially destroyed by cooking, like folate, vitamin C. You microwave broccoli. You can destroy about 15% of the vitamin C. And so instead of eating, 5 florets of raw broccoli, you need to eat 6 florets of steamed broccoli. But there's other nutrients. Actually, bioavailability dramatically increases when you cook food. So you get more beta-carotene in your bloodstream eating cooked carrots compared to raw carrots. You get more lycopene in your bloodstream eating processed tomato products like tomato paste, tomato sauce, then eating raw tomatoes. So I recommend a combination. But in general, I encourage people to eat huge amounts of raw produce, huge salads. So that's certainly something we can learn from the raw community. But I would not eat exclusively just because there's all sorts of other good foods you could be adding to your diet.
I just want to make a quick comment. Your badges and lanyards, if you could please leave them on the table.
Oh.
We'll recycle them for next year. So, back to questions.
Thank you. I have a question circling back to the cocoa powder.
Yeah.
For folks with cardiovascular disease, is the fat content of the
Thank you very much for
cocoa to
the
be worried about?
presentation. I'm back here.
Got it. I got a question that you didn't even hear.
Okay, so mine is
I'll
just
get
to
to
try
it.
to get the idea that we can do something about our exposure to and toxicity of the various elements on the periodic table that cause death and illness. Anyway, right now is about the time that a lot of people are grabbing the Roundup from the feed store or Lowe's and putting it on their grass to prevent the growth of weeds. rice and the newborns and the kids, the exposure to arsenic from the cotton fields where it gets sprayed and then turned into rice bags. So anyway, that was a couple that I work with. So, and I do my 3 tablespoons a day of flaxseed, ground flaxseed, to make sure my A1, not my A1, but PSA is under 2.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So if interested in the arsenic rice story, I got a whole long series of videos about it. However, the human data on glyphosate toxicity is by no means clear. There's laboratory animal data suggesting harm, but there's no human data as far as I know. Not saying you should drink the stuff, but just as an FYI. And then your question was, remind me.
Yes, my question was for individuals with cardiovascular
Oh,
disease.
yes. Oh, so what about the fat in cocoa powder? Well, that's the nice thing about cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is defatted, no sugar chocolate, basically. You take chocolate, you remove all the sugar, remove all the fat, and left with cocoa powder. That's how you make cocoa powder, is you remove the cocoa butter, which is the fat component. So don't worry about your cardiovascular disease with cocoa powder.
Hi. I'm here to your right.
Yes.
My husband was diagnosed last year with AL amyloidosis.
Ugh.
And I know, but he's doing well. He's in remission.
Oh, nice.
Being treated at UT Southwestern.
Well, what are they treating him with?
I would have to talk to you personally. It's
Okay.
a huge thing. But anyway,
Figatumumab, that's like my favorite drug name.
Yeah.
With a name like Figatumumab. I mean, it's so cute.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to be on Figatumumab? Anyway, yeah.
He, previous to this, he'd been a strict vegetarian. We both have him for 10 years. Like all of you guys. So now that he is in remission, and when he went through chemo, nothing tasted good. Everything. But so he started, when he finished chemo, he was craving chicken. And so he occasionally eats chicken now. And so I wanted to know really if there is anything on the front that you know of that is addressing the vegetarianism with AL amyloidosis, because I'm not hearing anything.
I mean, just mentioning the food most associated with increased myeloid disorder risk is actually chicken. And so I think they were talking about these other myeloplastic disorders, more like, multiple myeloma, but it kind of falls under the same general category. So yeah, I would resist the temptation. In terms of what you can do for AA amyloidosis, there's some studies on curcumin, which is kind of the yellow pigment found in turmeric, and green tea. Yeah, anyway, and so I can talk to you about doses if you're interested. They're doses you wouldn't want to take normally, but if you actually do have the disease, the benefits may outweigh the risks. Okay, we're out of time. Thank you so much, everybody.